tourism is growing very rapidly, and when you go to some of the conservancies like Olpejeta, you find that about a third of the visitors are Kenyans. Secondly, it's one of the main foreign exchange earners of the country, and it creates a lot of employment in places where there isn't very much going on. So it is important, whether you want to preserve animals or not for their own sake, it's of great economic importance. There is a system in Kenya called community conservancies, and it's the only country in Africa that has a system of community conservancies that is from the ground up, reasonably democratic, and it means that the people who live on the land where the wildlife lives are the ones on whom really everything depends. If they find it in their interest to protect wildlife will be much better off, and if they don't, then there'll be a lot of poaching, and it's going to be bad. We concluded that what was needed was reaching communities. You have to go to them, and you have to have programs which are relevant to them and which they find useful. In my view, and I feel very strongly about this, the best intentions put to work on programs which are not scalable, which cannot be scaled easily. For example, if you're just dealing with putting resources into helping one village someplace, but you can't transfer the goodies to another village, it's of very limited impact. Whereas if you have programs which, once it's seen to be working, it will spread. And to me, the best example of this is mobile phones. I mean, it started very small, and today everybody has them, and it's just been scaled by demand, by itself.
How do you take these principles of corporate leadership and management and actually deliver them at this community level? And so that's the journey I started on, and the results have been transforming. I mean, way beyond what I ever imagined. Well, when I was in corporate, I studied a lot of work by John Cotter, Harvard Business School, and he spent 25 or 30 years looking at organizational change, and his conclusion was that changing behavior is less a matter of giving people analysis and information, in other words, head knowledge. It's more about helping them to see a truth to influence their feelings. Okay? So both thinking and feeling are essential, but the heart of successful change is in the emotions. And I think if we thought about that ourselves, we'd realize that that's when we change. It's the same principles I've taken to these communities. And just to kind of visualize it another way, it's like see, feel, change. If we see something, we feel it and we change. We experience a truth or to influence our feelings, our emotion, and then our beliefs change. And when our beliefs change, our actions change, and because of that, we get different results. So that's kind of my simple methodology, if you like. And so I try to design every intervention I do around that see, feel, change. So the amount of PowerPoint you're seeing from me today is more than you'll ever see. The whole training is completely interactive, it's scenario-based, it's exercised. And if I do a review at the end of the program, they'll remember everything that we did that was visual, that was activity-based, and anything I did that was kind of more theoretically based, they don't remember. But everything else they will remember with 100% clarity. And so this is just, again, an innovation in terms of, I was thinking, how do we come back and give them a review when they can't read? But if we come back and give them a sheet of pictures, and then we ask them, what was this about? They just remember it perfectly. And in fact, they then just take the picture and we teach everyone else. Questions? Can we scale this? And if we were to scale it, how would we do it?
This kind of project can be scaled out. It's really a good thing. And perhaps you really need to establish if the other places you want to scale up to have the same needs. And then before we scale up, I think you really need to harness the learning, because it looks like a very successful model, but I think you really need to document it, capture the learning, then you can carry that learning in the scale up.
In most of our schools, we have wildlife clubs. And I was just thinking, especially in those communities, have we thought of how we can also work not only with the elderly in the communities, but how we can engage the young ones? Because what I know for sure, the passion for the wildlife, especially in those communities, it starts from a young age, and we need to tap it before it gets lost. So it's maybe how to think about working with the wildlife clubs and others who are interested in conservation.
Schools, I haven't thought about schools. We've recently had Moran, and they're uneducated, spend their time with wildlife, and we've had some of them in the training program. And when they get it, it's just unbelievable, because they're so energetic, they've got a lot of energy and enthusiasm. And one went away after our first session. He's illiterate, and he organised 3 meetings and came back with the agenda, the action points, everything written in a notebook. And he just got someone who's literate to write it all down.
I really like the fact that you've been able to achieve so much, even though it is not very structured in terms of planning for results and measuring the same. I'm just wondering what is happening with the conservation itself, because I think that is your end game, so how is it? Is it better? And how comes you're not able to capture it at least?
So I'm just talking about me not capturing the impacts of my training directly. NRT and those conservancies, they capture a lot of information. Wildlife numbers are increasing, poaching is reduced dramatically. And I suppose I've been a little bit kind of flippant, but Northern Rangelands Trust, they capture governance scores every year across a whole range of parameters, and the conservancies that have been trained, the governance scores typically go shooting up to the top. Myself, I haven't kind of thought about or put in hard measures, but there's a lot of thought gone into the outcomes. It's not just kind of unstructured. I've really thought about how to get the outcomes that we want to get. We have to do things in a way that get the impact, not just tick the box and put some money in the pocketbook, So I want you all to go away thinking about see, feel, change. Change the way you're doing things. And by the way, it's much more enjoyable.